Namaskar, everyone. Welcome to this very important conference. And thank you also for bearing with the organizers. Of course, technical difficulties is still an important part of our online experience in our world that is maintained by sometimes tenuous connections. But we're here. It's a very important day. I'm going to make sure we try to catch up some of the time that was lost. So instead of speaking for a full 20 minutes, I'll cut that in half to 10 before the organizers do an official welcome. Namaskar to everyone. I'm Dr. Vijay Satnarine. I serve as the Director for Education at the Hindu American Foundation, but I'm also a Hindu chaplain. And it gives me great pleasure to be here with each and every one of you for an extremely important conference that highlights and discusses an issue that is affecting all of us here in the United States of America. Before we get into any of that, we begin with invocations. I was also asked like a deepam, so I have the deepam here for the conference. But I want to just pause and say, I wonder if the organizers did this on purpose, or is this just very happy, happenstance. The happenstance is this: Mahashivratri is on Tuesday night, and today is Vijaya Ekadashi, the Ekadashi in which we hope to overcome those things within and also those things without that are, I would say, distracting, and also things that hold us back from achieving our true potential. So with that in mind, I invite you all to close your eyes for a moment, and we will recite Om 3 times. Om. Om. Om Tachanyoravraneemahe Gadum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivi Swastirastunaha Swastirmanushebhyaha Urdhvam Jigatu Bheshajam Shanno Astu Dvipade Shanchatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And you may join me in lighting your deepams. And if you don't have one, that's not a problem. Here's one for all of us. Shubham karoti kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadaha shatrubuddhi prakashaya deepajyotir namostute deepajyotir namostute deepajyotir namostute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namah Chandikayai. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Suryaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vetrivel Muruganakku Hara Haro Hara. For a brief few minutes after this invocation, there was a reflection that I was asked to give by the amazing organizers, and let me just say how amazing they are. They're doing work that is literally like going against the flow of a torrential river. And so to the organizers, both the Hindu YUVA Initiative and the Hindu YUVA of University of Dallas and the Understanding Hinduphobia Initiative, to the organizers, I give you my pranams. To each and every one of you here, Namaskaram, Hari Om. There were a few things that we could reflect on today, and the theme of erasure is something that is pervasive throughout our Shastras. I don't know if you've ever looked at the Shastras in that light, but I want to just highlight 4 people: Prahlad, Hanuman, Vibhishana, and Dhruva. We've been taught to see the world in the United States in terms of left, right, and center. And indeed, all of our narratives, our history as Hindus in this country and Hindus in the global story has been pulled on the left, has been pulled the right, and has been pulled through the center. Our Shastras, however, talk about Adhidevik, Adhibautik, and Adhyatmika. And I want to try and turn our minds a little bit towards the Adhidevik, Adhibautik, Adhyatmika components of this discussion. The components of Adhidevik, Adhibautik, Adhyatmika are really interesting when you see the struggles of Hindu people throughout history, because we do sometimes neglect to see that there are internal forces, there are societal forces, as well as larger forces that act on our ability to thrive as human beings here. I pick up Prahlad, for example, because Prahlad, of course, had to go against not only his own father, but the fact that the father was a ruler, someone who had really strong political clout, so strong you think that any of the leaders of the world today have any clout like Hiranyakashipu did. Hiranyakashipu had that kind of clout that flattened every single person's will in the entire territory that he had. So powerful it was that it overruled Bhagavan, or so he thought. Prahlad's determination, Prahlad's desire to be true to himself, true to his dharma, is what allowed him to move straight past all of this, all of the trials and tribulations he was put through. So when I think of erasure, I think of Hiranyakashipu trying to raise his own son. When I think of erasure, I think about Vibhishana, the lovely image that's given in the Ramayana, that Vibhishana was living like the tongue lives amongst the 32 teeth. How gentle and how soft the tongue is versus how hard and sharp the teeth are. I think in the United States, we have, as Hindu Americans, experienced just how pervasive these and how all-encompassing sometimes it can feel these sharp teeth can be. Vibhishana, therefore, is a very important example of how, even in a place where he's surrounded on all sides by all kinds of different forces, not just people who have it out for him, but his own brother, still Vibhishana has kept his devotion, his dedication, his commitment to dharma, and he found some people that would help him out later on. So there is devotion, dedication, but there's also patience, finding the right time and finding the right people to help. Vibhishana is who I talked about. Then Hanumanji is someone I would like to, just highlight. We love Hanumanji. Hanumanji's examples are so many, and we could pull this, discussion in very different ways. But the chief moment that stands out to me about Hanumanji is when he feigned this for us. He acted this out for us when he was ready to make this jump to Lanka. And he was given this task that was oh so almighty. And he modeled for us what it looks like to have self-doubt. But Jamwant came along and said, you know who you are. You know what you've done in the past. You know how much you're capable of. Rise up, Hanumanji. Jamwant ke bachna suhaye, we know in the Tulsidas's Ramacharita. And just remembering how much he was able to have done in the service of the Lord, he was able to regain his self-confidence and make that huge jump over to Lanka. And finally, Dhruv. In the last minute that I have, Dhruv's story is such a brilliant story. I wish every one of you could go and look it up and just read about how this young little child, 5 years old, he was ridiculed by his own stepmother, who said, you are not going to be worthy of the throne of your father. He loves me, and therefore he loves my son. And so Suruchi, she ridiculed her own stepson. Stepson Dhruv ran back to his own mother, Suniti, and Suniti said, yeah, as bad as it is, this is the way things are. What are you going to do about it? And so Dhruv set off. He found someone who could give him a bigger perspective. Narada Muni was his guru. And Narada Muni initiated him into the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What did he do with that? He did an immense amount of work on his own self. And when finally he was able to achieve the Lord, he was granted everything that was due to him. And so these four personalities, I want us to ground our understanding, maybe, of how to deal with the erasure we face by looking to the examples in our past who tell us to dig deep, who tell us to work hard, but to also tell us, don't be fooled. Hiranyakashipu was no foreigner. Hiranyakashipu was his own family. we do not have just to deal with ignorance from without. We have to deal with ignorance within, whether that be within our own communities and also our own self. We have to have the humility to accept that we need to up our knowledge, we need to up our game, and that we need to do so with integrity, that we need to do so on the basis of how our ancestors proceeded, not just how the other folks and other civilizations have proceeded. We do not need to do what they've done, because the way that we have done it has allowed us to survive centuries and centuries of attacks, and we're still here. So remember, our diversity is our strength. We do not need to look like one people. We do not need to eat one thing. We do not need to say one thing, but we do need to understand that diversity is the foundation of the united worldviews that are kept within Dharma. On the other hand, we need to advocate without compromising our values. And finally, we can respect and be humble as good Hindus are. Everybody likes to tell Hindus that you should be respectful, you should be humble. But you can be respectful, you can be humble without becoming a doormat. So with these few messages and these few reflections, I turn over to our wonderful hosts and conveners and organizers and really dedicated workers of the Dharma, Sanatana Dharma in this country. And I will leave us with this one verse from Dhruva, who said, Yontak pravishya mama vachrimam prasuptam sanjeevayatti khila shakti dharaswadhamna anyanya hasta charana shravanatvagadin prana namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Whenever you need that little extra, remember that it is Paramatma who comes within us and engages our ability to speak, engages our ability to hear, to do. Hear those things people are saying that sound very sweet, but are actually full of knives. Do those things that are necessary for our people, for ourselves. And of course, we will find the Supreme Being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.